style, raps inside my skull cap like a brick stack. The kid is back. I told y'all niggas 98 list that.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to yet another video. We're 5 down out of the 8 divisions. Right now, we're doing the AFC North. A lot to talk about here. Possibly the best division all around I've done so far. All of these drafts are good, but who's the best? Let's get right into it. Starting off with the Bengals, and I'm not even going to explain how we do this. Hopefully, you've watched at least one of the previous videos by now. You should know how the grading system works and all that. So let's get right into it. First off, at number 28, they took Myles Murphy. He fell. He fell very heavily on day one. I remember when he was mocked as high as number 5 overall to my Seahawks. And I didn't even really see a world where he falls outside the top 10 until like the last week or so. It was just all of a sudden, it's like, wait a minute, Myles Murphy, he's not really the top contender anymore as far as these high picks go. And lo and behold, he fell to the Bengals, and a lot of Bengals, they wanted Michael Mayer, right? They wanted Michael Mayer. They were hoping for Dalton Kincaid. But here's my view on it. Tight end is a complete luxury position, especially for the Bengals. They have Irv Smith Jr. Do y'all remember in that AFC Championship game when they were getting no pressure on Mahomes? Would you rather have a second tight end who could possibly make it a little easier for Joe Burrow, or would you rather get a guy who could, get pressure in, those needed situations in playoff games? I think this is the right pick. I actually think it's their best pick of the whole class. So I'm gonna give that an A minus because they could have gone some other direction. They could have taken Mayo. They could have taken Joey Porter, some things like this. But I think Myles Murphy was a great selection at 28. Next up, we got DJ Turner at 60, fastest 40 in the whole combine, if I'm not mistaken, 4.26, 5 foot 11 inches tall. It was actually kind of funny. He was not very happy. Well, let me clarify. He didn't appear very happy when he was selected, but I think that was just a joke or something. Uh, Corner was a need, certainly was a need. I'm gonna give it a B plus. This really makes their entire secondary extremely young, along with their next pick. I mean, you got DJ Turner, Dax Hill, Cam Taylor-Britt from last year. So I gave this a B plus. They needed corner. They took, in their opinion, what was the best corner on the board. I still think Ringo, he was my best corner in the whole class, in my opinion. But I think it was a good pick at 60, good value, and to continue to add to that young secondary. But Jordan Battle at 95, I don't know how he fell this far. I did not see a world where he made it out the second round just because of how weak this draft was on safeties. But I mean, he made it out the second round. The Bengals jumped on it. This is an A plus. I mean, they lost Von Bell and Jesse Bates, and you get potentially the best, traditional safety in the whole class. I mean, how could you even fault this pick? Just because it's not Darnell Washington, who cares? They had their pick and then they traded back for Jordan Battle, if I'm not mistaken. But I have to give it an A plus. Best player on the board, biggest position of need. I can't fault it in any way. It has to be an A plus. If I can't think of anything better I would have done, it's an A plus. Next up, we get Charlie Jones out of Purdue. This is interesting because obviously we know how good the Bengals wide receiver core is, but this is a play on, Tyler Boyd leaving in free agency, not because, he doesn't enjoy Cincy, but because they don't have enough money to pay all these guys. And once Tyler Boyd leaves, Charlie Jones, I think, could fill that role very nicely. You obviously got T. Higgins and Jamar outside, but Charlie Jones in the slot as just a route runner with great hands, I think he could very easily replace Tyler Boyd. And not only that, maybe even be a little better, not no disrespect to Tyler Boyd, but I'm just talking about specifically in that role. I like this pick. I gave it a B only because we're not going to see him make a big impact next season. And I do think that, that takes some points off for a team that's trying to compete for a Super Bowl. But in the long run, Charlie Jones, he will make a lot of big plays for the Bengals in the future. I have no doubt about that. Next up, Chase Brown. Very similar to the Charlie Jones pick, except I think he's going to make a lot more impact next season. They needed a running back behind Joe Mixon, but I think this is Joe Mixon's last year. Um, I wouldn't even be surprised if he doesn't even finish the year with the Bengals, because I mean his trajectory, I guess, has been aiming downwards for a while now. Not to mention the litany of off the field issues he's been having, and then to get, I mean, one of the biggest bell cows in college football, man, averaged like 5 yards a carry on 300 touches or something like that. It was amazing. I think it's great value at 163. I mean, you could have took him at 133 and I would have still given this an A minus. So not only is it good value, massive position of need, you know, I think he's gonna be a great player for them. I mean, I think he could even be better than Joe Mixon in the future. And I know that's a bit of a bold prediction, but I just like Chase Brown as a prospect, and I gave that an A minus. And both of these last two picks, Chase Brown and Charlie Jones, have the potential to be much higher than what I've given them at this point. Next up, this is the one where I'm kind of iffy on. Andre Yosevis. I'm not, I apologize off the bat. That does say Princeton. That does say Princeton wide receiver. This is just throwing a dart on a guy who is like 6'3" and run like a 4.4 40, I believe. I think he's going to be a kick returner or a punt returner right away. My only problem with this is that, the best case is he's wide receiver 5. Next season, maybe he's wide receiver 4. I just don't see a world where this guy's ever going to be a productive player for you. And this is kind of, being a little over picky, but at 206, maybe you could have got something better. That's all I'm thinking about that. There were some other good players available. So I gave that a C plus. Brad Robbins, I mean, I had to use this picture of him. Just look at the guy. What the hell is that? It's a punter at 217. I'm not mad at the value. If he's a starting punter, then this is even better than a B. But for right now, I gave it a B. And then DJ Ivy, I don't think he's going to make the roster, so that's not going to be graded. Overall, though, 7 graded players. You can see the distribution there, heavy on the offensive weapons, really. And then the secondary, Myles Murphy with their first pick, so that's the grades. And this shakes out to be a 6.07, which is, pretty close to a B plus. And I have no problem giving them a B plus. I think it was a very good draft, which not a lot of people are talking about this draft, but I think, especially considering, how the Bengals have been trying to dig themselves out of this hole that they were in for such a long time, 2 very good seasons. And I think this draft is a really good sign that they've turned a corner and they are pushing forward as a Super Bowl contender year in and year out. And I think this draft will pay dividends for a very long time. Next up, we got the Browns. Obviously, no first round pick, no second round pick, gave up a lot in the Deshaun trade. But starting off strong, I think, with Cedric Tillman out of Tennessee. 1 pick after Jalen Hyatt. They went back to back, which was kind of cool. You know, I think wide receiver, just their pass catchers in general, this is such a strong position group for the Browns. I mean, let's just think they got Marquise Goodwin, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Amari Cooper. Fuck, they signed somebody else, didn't they? Somebody else I can't even. Out of Purdue last season. Is it David Bell, Drake Bell? Y'all know who I'm talking about, the Purdue receiver from last season. And then Cedric Tillman now. It's a very deep wide receiver room. I think Cedric Tillman may be wide receiver 4, maybe compete for that wide receiver 3 spot. But once Amari Cooper leaves, most likely after this season, it's fair game. Anybody could be that number 1 receiver next year. And I think Cedric Tillman makes a strong case for that. I'm not sure, he's not going to be in the offensive rookie of the year running or anything like that. But over time, this is a very good wide receiver prospect. And I think he could work his way up that depth chart very quickly. So I gave it a B. Next up, Siaki Ika. I think 98 is good value for him. I don't think he was a first or second round talent or anything like that. He kind of is just big, but that's very valuable for a team who desperately, desperately needs to stop the run. So sticking him up there, I think that's B plus. I think, like I said, 98 is good value for a position of need. You need to stop the run. I like the pick. I like the pick a lot. So that's a B plus in my opinion. Dawand Jones at 111. I don't know how he fell. The man was dominant in college. I think he's 6'8", 375. He's a massive fucking human. Stays in Ohio, which is cool to see. I mean, it has to be an A. It just has to be. What else could you give this? I mean, They are hoping to replace um they're hoping to replace Jedrick Wills, if that's his name, Willis, I'm not sure. But their left tackle they took in the first round a couple years ago, they do not like him. And then Conklin as the right tackle will be gone after this season, if I'm not mistaken. So I like this pick a lot. I think Dewan Jones is a good prospect. And at 111, I mean you can't fault the value whatsoever. So I gave that an A. I think it's the best pick of the whole class. Next up, Isaiah McGuire. They've been looking for Myles Garrett's partner on the opposite side. They was hoping it would be Jadeveon Clowney. He had a good year, if I'm not mistaken. Not this previous season, but maybe a year ago. Isaiah McGuire, they're taking a shot. He has a chance at 126. I just like that they're going out there and they're trying. So I gave it a B plus. Dorian Thompson Robinson, look. I'm not going to repeat myself. I'm not going to try and harp on what I feel about drafting quarterbacks instead of going out and signing free agents. But here's just quickly. You are hoping as the Browns that Dorian Thompson Robinson never sees the field, right? You're hoping that Deshaun Watson stays healthy and Dorian Thompson Robinson never has to play, right? That's the hope. That's the goal, right? So why spend? And keep in mind, 140, there were good players available at 140, right? Players that could most certainly help you, right? And to take Dorian Thompson Robinson, man, if at 180, 190, 200, I probably would have given this like a C minus or a C, right? But at 140, I just I don't get it, man. And I understand the counter argument, but I still disagree with it. This has to be a D for me. I I will never get over teams drafting backup quarterbacks and wasting picks, in my opinion. It's a waste of a pick. At 142, we have Cam Mitchell, another Northwestern cornerback. Greg Newsome is very happy with this one. It's solid value. Cameron Mitchell, he's not going to wow anybody. It's going to be good depth to that cornerback room. Um, and maybe he climbs the depth chart, but I'm not mad at the pick whatsoever. Fans were happy. Greg Newsome's very happy. I gave it a B. This though, Luke Whippler out of Ohio State. I don't know how on earth he fell to 190. Um, he's a guy who could start at center for several teams in the NFL. I gave this an A minus. Their steal of the draft. Will he start for the Browns day one? Most likely not. But he does have versatility. He can play guard as well. And I've seen that next season. So what they've did with these picks, as far as the Ohio State offensive linemen in Luke Whippler and Dewan Jones, they're setting themselves up to get a lot cheaper on the offensive line next season, from what I've seen. Because next season we could see Luke Whippler and Dewan Jones both starting. So to get two starting offensive linemen at 111 and 190, it's just such good value. This was the highlight of the Browns draft class, beefing up that offensive line with very good players and very good value picks. So overall, it shapes up to be a 5.57. You can see the distribution there. This was a B. Maybe I could have rounded up, but I didn't love the Dorian Thompson Robinson pick. If they replaced that with, I don't even know who was available there. A good linebacker, this is probably a B plus, maybe even an A minus. I just dislike that pick so much, so it shapes up to be a B. Next up, we got Baltimore. And even though re-signing Lamar happened on the same day, I'm not going to include that. This is just in regards to draft picks and, players that they acquired on draft day. So Lamar extension will not be taken into account here. First up, we got Zay Flowers at 22. It's why I think wide receiver was the move the entire time. I was thinking for a little bit maybe it was Brian Branch, but I think wide receiver ultimately was the best decision. So I gave that an A. Only reason it's not an A plus is because me personally, I would have gone Jordan Addison. I think he's just a safer pick over, the 5'9" Zay Flowers. I just think Jordan Addison can do more in the NFL. And also, I think Joey Porter at 22 would have been very, very, because wide receiver, you could have got a guy, I think, in the third round who maybe could have, filled some of Zay Flowers' role, but I don't think there was another Joey Porter in this draft class. So I think if I was the Ravens, I would have gone Joey Porter or Jordan Addison, but I can't fault Zay Flowers whatsoever. I think it's a great pick nonetheless. So I'm just nitpicking, So I still gave it an A. I think it was their best pick overall. But Trenton Simpson at 86, I don't know how Trenton Simpson was available at 86. I think he was in my top 32, and if he wasn't in my top 32, he would have certainly been in my top 40. Trent Simpson is an amazing player. I think he was the best linebacker in the whole class. Lions took one at 18. I'm not sure he's better than Trenton Simpson. So the Ravens, what this means is that Patrick Queen, they're not going to pick up his fifth-year option. He will most certainly not be back. I think Trenton Simpson and Roquan Smith are the linebackers of the future, and I can't be mad at that. They took the best player available at 86, and it's a great pick. It's an A. I can't fault that whatsoever. Ravens fans should be very happy about that one. Next up, we got Tavius Robinson out of Ole Miss. And at this point, the Ravens fans were getting very antsy about a corner. And, in hindsight, we understand that they signed Rock Ya-Sin, right? But still, I mean, Tavius Robinson, is pass rush still a need for the Ravens? Yes, it is. I'm not sure though. They got Odafe Oweh. They got what's his name? David Ojabo. So, they've got several young pass rushers on the come up. I'm not sure if you needed to add another one into the mix, but maybe I'm wrong. I gave it a B minus, but maybe it pans out and I end up looking stupid here. Next up, we got Kyu Blu Kelly. I just like the fact I'm not gonna pretend like this is some top prospect, that this was a massive that this was some massive steal or anything like that. They drafted a player who was around that range at a position of need. It gets a B. This was not, a shocker or anything like that. I'm not gonna say this guy's name, but he provides some depth to the offensive line. He's like 6'7", but he also can play interior, apparently, which is very interesting. So I think that's cool. Did they need offensive line? I'm not sure. Ravens fans were not, stoked about this pick, so I gave it a C+. At 229, we had Andrew Voorhees, though. This was amazing. If you don't know the story, this guy was a projected first or second, no, probably a second round pick, right? Then he tore his ACL at the combine, still did the bench press after tearing his ACL, and I think he killed it. He might have did the most reps out of anybody with a torn ACL. That is crazy. So that's a crazy story, and I love the fact that the Ravens gave him a shot. And this is their steal of the draft. Next season, when he recovers and he's healthy, you could potentially have a starting offensive guard right there in the 7th round. So the potential there is through the roof. I love the fact that they gave him a shot. So that's their steal of the class, in my opinion. This is how it shapes up. 5.92. You can see the distribution. I decided to round up to a B plus because it was so close, and I do think it was a very good class overall. So the Ravens, they should be very happy. Paired with the Lamar extension, a very good time to be a Ravens fan. Next up, though, we got the Steelers. Save the best for last. You'll see what I mean by that. Broderick Jones at 14. Look, tackles flew off the board, and I mean flew. You had Paris Johnson at 6, Darnell Wright at 10, Peter Skoronski at 11. Broderick Jones has the potential to be the best left tackle in this entire class. No doubt in my mind. The physicality, the measurables, it's unmatched. He's a mauler. He is going to bully people in the NFL. This is an A+ pick. Let me remind you. If I can't think of anything better I would have done, it's an A+. The other thing I probably would have done at 14 is take Joey Porter Jr. And ironically, I don't know how Joey Porter fell out of the first round. It's ridiculous. For guys like Emmanuel Forbes to go first round, and no disrespect, I think Deonte Banks is also solid, but for Deonte Banks to go first round, how is Joey Porter falling out? I have no clue. 32, one of the best picks in the whole draft. I mean, if they would have taken him at 14, guess what? It would have gotten an A. So to get him at 32, it's an A+, point blank. Best pick of their draft. It makes me angry how things just work out for some teams. Keanu Benton at 49, I think defensive tackle. Did they re-sign Larry Ogunjobi or did they lose? I'm not sure if they re-signed him or lost him, but D tackle, stuffing the run, you can never go wrong, right? And Keanu Benton was a good player. 49 was good value, but it's just, I mean, the fans were ecstatic at this point. So keep in mind, fan opinion is a big factor in this. So I had to give it an A because, I mean, if you can't think of many better things to do there besides beefing up the D-line with a good player, good fit, all that, it has to get an A. And then, of course, Of course, they got Darnell. Why wouldn't they get Darnell Washington at 93? 93. If they would have took Darnell Washington at 49, they would have got a good grade. This is their steal of the draft. One of the biggest steals in the entire draft. Darnell Washington. And look, Pat Freiermuth has had like 3 concussions, I think, already in his career, which is very scary. And I'm not hoping that he gets another one. I think I'm just saying it's smart for the Steelers to look on the other side of, damn, if he gets another concussion or 2, he's probably done. So to get Darnell Washington at 93, is he going to be a big factor in their offense day one? No, probably not. But over time, if they can develop this guy properly, watch out, man. It's going to be scary. This is an A+ without a doubt. One of the biggest steals in the whole draft. Nick Herbig at 132. At first, I thought this was an amazing pick, but then I found out he was more of an outside linebacker. At 11 sacks, if I'm not mistaken. So he doesn't really address their need, which is interior linebacker, Mike linebacker. He's, it helps the pass rush, very good pass rusher. So I still gave it an A-, because it's a good player and, great value at 132. But I think interior linebacker was the fans' biggest concern from this entire class, and they didn't really address that. So I gave Nick Herbig an A-. How did they get Corey Trice at 241? If you're not aware, this was a guy who's getting 3rd and 4th round hype the entire time, and he fell to damn near the last pick in the draft. I'm not sure how or why he fell. The man's like 6'3", 200 pounds. It's just, it has to be an A. How do you get, if they would have got Corey Trice in the 4th round, this would have got an A. They got him at 241. I don't get it. It makes no sense for the Steelers. They just did everything right. Spencer Anderson at 251. I don't think he's going to make the roster, but I had to give something their worst pick, and I was not going to give Nick Herbig their worst pick in the draft, okay? So Spencer Anderson, not graded, still gets their worst pick. Can you imagine if they would have took Ivan Pace at 251? We're potentially talking about the best draft ever, but they didn't. Moving on, though, this is how it shakes up. 6 graded players for a 7.42. I don't remember what the Eagles got. This might be the highest one we've seen, and it might be the highest we're going to see. This was an amazing draft. There's a reason the Steelers have been getting all the hype they have been getting based around this draft class. It was amazing. Damn near flawless. God, I don't even want to talk about it. It hurts. So you can see there the rankings of the teams. Steelers obviously was amazing. I think the Bengals and the Ravens both drafted several players who will help them moving forward. And then the Browns, the Browns were kind of a disadvantage because they didn't have a 1st or 2nd round pick. So to still walk away with those 2 great offensive linemen, they should be very happy. I think the Browns, don't be fooled by that grade. They did a lot with what they had as far as the draft is concerned. So I think this division, probably the best we've seen so far. As far as top to bottom, every team making some great picks. No real shockers or stinkers in this class or in this division. So, gotta clap it up. Great set of picks right here. That's gonna be it for this video, though. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I will put a poll up to see the next division and which one we're doing. So, thanks for watching. Peace.
It's out the motherfucking pack. Right out the niggas don't know how to act.